Stop scrolling through property prices on Rightmove for a second, because that's not going to tell you anything. The number that actually matters isn't the price of the flat. It's a hidden number your bank calculates on its own without telling you, the exact moment you hit Get a Quote on a mortgage in London. Your income multiple. And that number decides everything. It decides whether you end up living in Zone 6 on the far outskirts of the city, or whether you can actually plant your flag somewhere central. And here's the wild part. That multiple changes depending on which bank you pick, how much you earn, and sometimes even what your profession is. Two people with the exact same salary, in the same week, walking into different banks, can walk out with a £200,000 difference in buying power. £200,000. Same income, just a different bank. If you've ever wondered why London feels impossible to buy into, or wondered what your salary actually unlocks in this city, stay with me, because I'm going to show you income bracket by income bracket exactly what each level of income buys in London in 2026. And at the end, I'll show you what happens once the game simply stops playing by the rules we're about to learn.
Let's start with the rule that runs the whole show. Every British bank uses what's called the income multiple to decide how much it'll lend you. Most of the big high street banks, Halifax, Santander, Barclays, Nationwide, work off a standard multiple of 4 to 4.5 times your gross annual income. Sounds simple, right? Except there are bigger multiples hiding behind specific criteria. Several banks offer 5 to 5.5 times income to people earning above £75,000 a year, and some private banks go as high as 6.5 times for people earning more than £100,000.
And here's the first twist. Since 2014, the Bank of England has capped every bank so that only 15% of its total new lending can go above 4.5 times income. Meaning even if you qualify for the higher multiple, there might simply be no room left at that bank that month to actually offer it to you. Add to that the LTV, the loan to value, which sets the slice of the property the bank will finance, ranging from 60% for people with a huge deposit up to 95% for people who can only scrape together a small one. Income multiple and LTV. Hold on to those two levers, because every income bracket we're about to walk through fights against them in a different way. First rung of the ladder. Someone on their own earning around London's median salary, about £47,000 a year. At the standard multiple of 4.5 times, that person can borrow roughly £211,000. The problem is, the average property in London already costs more than £533,000, according to the Land Registry. And even the properties specifically bought by people entering the market for the first-time buyers, average £472,000. That leaves a gap of more than £200,000 between what the bank lends and what the property costs. A gap that only closes with a sizable deposit, or with help from schemes like the Mortgage Guarantee Scheme, which unlocks financing up to 95%, or shared ownership, where you buy just a slice of the property, somewhere between 25 and 75%, and pay rent on the rest. In practice, this income bracket is aiming at flats in the outer zones, Zone 4, 5 or 6, in areas like Croydon, Romford or Barking, where you can still find a one-bedroom flat around £300,000, exactly the ceiling that this multiple plus a modest deposit can support. Second rung, and here things already look different. A couple with combined income between £75,000 and £100,000 a year. Two professionals with established careers, say a project manager and a data analyst. That combined income already unlocks the intermediate multiple of 5 to 5.5 times at several banks. With £85,000 combined, a 5 times multiple supports a loan of £425,000,
And adding a 15% deposit, this couple can already target a property around £500,000, which opens doors in Zone 2 and 3 in areas like Walthamstow, Peckham or Ealing, which have become common destinations for exactly this type of buyer in recent years, because they still have decent tube connections to the centre without the sky-high prices of the more central areas. At this level, private banks offer multiples of 6, even 6.5 times, usually requiring a minimum individual income of £100,000. Except each bank calculates that income in a completely different way. A law firm partner who receives a fixed salary plus profit share might have that profit share completely ignored by a traditional bank, which only looks at the base salary, and fully counted by a private bank, which looks at the 3-year average of profit share. For that same person, that can mean the difference between one bank approving £1.75 million and another approving £1.95 million. £200,000 difference. Same person, same week, just a different bank.
That's exactly why mortgage brokers who specialise in high-net-worth clients exist. They know by heart which bank looks favourably at which type of income. With that kind of buying power, this family is now targeting terraced houses in Islington, Fulham or Clapham, or larger flats in Zone 1 and 2. And now the top. In Kensington and Chelsea, one of the most expensive boroughs in the country, the average property already costs more than £1 million. And someone earning the city's median salary would need more than £884,000 just in deposit to make the numbers work under standard lending rules. Almost nobody buys there using an income multiple as their main path.
That market runs mostly on cash or on a massive deposit covering nearly everything, coming from accumulated wealth, inheritance, or the sale of another property, not from a monthly salary. It's the same pattern that repeats in property markets around the world. Past a certain point, the whole conversation about income multiples and LTV simply stops making sense, because whoever is buying there isn't buying with a salary. They're buying with wealth. Putting it all on one scale, with individual income up to around £50,000, you're aiming at the outer zones, with help from shared ownership or 95% financing. Between £75,000 and £100,000 combined, you access Zone 2 and 3 in up-and-coming areas. Above £200,000 combined, with the right bank, you're aiming at established central boroughs, and only once the conversation stops being about salary and starts being about accumulated wealth do areas like Kensington and Chelsea actually come into view. So here's the final thought. London is at the same time one of the richest cities on the planet and one of the hardest places to buy your first home using just your own salary, because the city's average price is already more than 12 times the median salary of the people who live there. That means getting onto the London property ladder depends less and less on how much you earn a month and more on family help, already accumulated wealth, or years of saving for a deposit while prices keep climbing.
So, next time someone brings up their salary in London, remember what we covered today. That number, on its own, only tells half the story, because what actually opens the right door in this city is the combination of that salary and the multiple the right bank is willing to offer you at that exact moment. If this video helped you understand how this game really works, drop a like. Tell me in the comments which of these rungs you're on today, and go ahead and subscribe, because next week I'm breaking down stamp duty, the tax that catches every property buyer in the UK off guard. See you in the next one.